everybody, to this special CSP edition, Pesach edition, AI edition. I've had fun spelling all the words for Passover, Pesach with AI now, and it's annoying a lot of people I know, but it's just the world we live in. So we're going to get started in a second. It is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. The sun is out, at least temporarily, in Southern California. It's a miracle. Before Pesach, it's 3:30 p.m. Where our East Coasters reside, whether you're in the United States or Canada. In Israel, it is still an hour earlier than usual because they haven't changed time. So it's 21:30 p.m., which I think is 9:30 p.m. And I'm happy to see all of you here today. Our speakers for today are me, and more importantly, my good friend Tal Golan, who I will introduce shortly. Our topic is, why is this night different from all others? Because AI is leading my Seder. And it pretty much will be leading our Seder this year, I think. Or at least it may not be physically leading it, but it will be very much involved in our Seder. If you are new to CSP, you can learn about us at www.occsp.net. You can join our email list, you can donate, you can support us. That would be appreciated. We've been around for 22 years, and we've been online now for 3 years, and this is online program number 572. So if it's your first program, you missed 571 programs. Many of them are on our YouTube channel. You can catch them there. Upcoming programs I wanted to mention: Thursday, which is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, we have a very special program live from Tel Aviv. Art collector William Gross will be sharing some of the items in his collection. The topic for the program is Judaica, a love affair with non-Jewish culture. Sunday, March 22nd at 10 a.m. Pacific, protests, identity in Israel at 75 with Dr. Tomer Persico. We added that program because we felt we had to address what's going on in Israel with an expert. So you're invited to join us there. We will have the chat open kind of in a just to me and to Tal right now, and then we'll open it up generally at the end. So if you have questions as we go along, please chat them, and we'll hopefully have time at the end to answer your questions. This program is supposed to be a little bit of interactive, so I'm going to launch a poll real quick. And the poll is, have you used Chat GPT or a similar online AI? I don't know, I would call it a resource portal. So I told Tal a majority of you would say no. He said a majority would say yes. So the first part of our day is to see what the answer is. And so far it's 82% no. But
yeah,
it
appears as though I was wrong on that.
Okay, but you're going to be right in everything else you share, so I'm looking forward to that. For those of you who don't know my good friend Tal Golan, he is a distinguished enterprise architect at Salesforce and has spent his career using, building, and advising Fortune 100 companies on topics including machine learning, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, privacy, blockchain, and technology governance. He and his wife Andrea have lived in Orange County for 24 plus years, but Tal, like me, is an East Coaster by birth. So I don't know if he has an accent or not. Maybe you can pick it up. But he's a Boston Red Sox fan, and that's probably why we are very good friends. So Tal, 80% of the people online have never used Chat GPT. So I'm going to end the poll right now, and it's going to be awesome for all of you to see what is out there. I assume you've all been reading and watching the news because it's kind of like picking up steam. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. There was a article I'm going to mention shortly in the New York Times yesterday about it. But just to give you a little background about why we're doing this program, about a month and a half ago, I should say we're dedicating this program in honor of our good friends Lance Aronson and Peter Mesnick. They are both very interested in AI, and Peter Mesnick, my good friend, called me a month and a half ago and told me he's using AI in his business already, and he showed me how he's using it, and I was so blown away that I immediately got onto Chat GPT and started to play with it. And I was wondering, well, how could I use it in a Jewish context? And since Passover was coming up, I decided that I would use artificial intelligence to create a supplement to the Seder, and I would ask AI to rewrite parts of the Seder. So this is a supplement. It's not a Haggadah. It's a supplement that I shared with you, and you could print it out, take it with you to the Seder, and see what AI has to say on various parts of the Seder, what it has to add. And I figured that it would be a great avenue today to show you what AI can do and talk about it. So what I'm going to do right now is share my screen, talk about the Seder supplement. Everything I'm going to show you right now was written by artificial intelligence, by Chat GPT. It was illustrated by DALL-E, which is a related AI to Chat GPT. And then some of you have seen the videos made in which I have a synthetic avatar reading the supplement from the Haggadah, pieces of it. So the world we live in is crazy, but this is a model to show you, A, what you can use at your Seder, and B, where we are with AI right now. And then Tal is going to kind of take AI apart a bit and explain it to you. And he's also going to do a live GPT session to show you how this works. And then we're going to answer questions. Tal, is that a good outline? Is there anything I missed?
No, that's fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks, Ari.
So here we go. Hopefully this will work. This should be the easiest part. I'm going to share my screen. So Tal, do you see it as a full screen?
We do. Testing worked perfectly.
I'm watching my time because I want to spend about 20 minutes on the Seder supplement and then another 25 minutes on the technology. So why is this night different from all others? Because AI is leading my Seder, Ari Katz and Tal Golan. And I'm going to go to the second screen. This is an article that just came out. There's been many articles about the incredible change that AI is going to bring to all of us. And this is, if you know Thomas Friedman, many of you read his articles. This was published in the New York Times yesterday. Our new Promethean moment. And Thomas Friedman talks about his interactions with Craig Mundy about GPT-4, which we will explain what that is. And this is the reason I included it here is to show you what Craig responds. The bottom of the screen, you need to understand, Craig warned me before he started his demo, this is going to change everything about how we do everything. I think that it represents mankind's greatest invention to date. It is qualitatively different and it will be transformational. The stuff I'm showing in the Haggadah is cool, but this AI and GPT and this world we are now in is an incredible moment. And I have friends who are kind of ignoring it. I have friends who are scared of it. Hopefully we'll get to some of those issues today. Okay. AI writes and illustrates my Haggadah supplement. When I start, you can ask AI to do certain tasks. And one of the things, you can also ask AI questions. So I asked Chat GPT, what is the meaning of Passover to you as AI? And it responded, as an AI language model, I do not have personal beliefs or feelings, but I can provide information on the significance of Passover to the Jewish community. Passover is a holiday that celebrates the liberation of the Israelites from slavery in ancient Egypt, as described in the book of Exodus in the Hebrew Bible. During Passover, Jewish people gather for a Seder, a ceremonial meal that recounts the story of Exodus and includes symbolic foods, prayers, and rituals. Passover is a time of reflection, remembrance, and gratitude for the freedom and redemption that the Israelites experienced, as well as a reminder of the ongoing struggles for justice and liberation in the world. So I asked Chat GPT a question. This is the response it gave me. And then I said to Chat GPT, hey, I'd like, when I'm doing the Seder with Tal Golan and his family, I would like a welcome. What should the welcome be? And it wrote a welcome for me. Welcome to the Seder. Welcome to this year's Passover Seder. It's an honor and joy to gather together with family and friends, celebrate this special holiday. Passover is a time of reflection, renewal, and gratitude for the blessings in our lives. We come together to retell the story of our ancestors' journey from slavery to freedom and to affirm our own commitment to justice, compassion, and freedom for all people. As we gather around the Seder table, may we be filled with love, joy, and peace, and may we continue to strengthen the bonds of family and friendship as we share in the special tradition of Chag Sameach. Everything you see on this page, the text, and then the images, which I generated using another AI platform called DALL-E, is from, it was written and produced by artificial intelligence. So moving on. The other thing I wanted to show you was just some of the items that I have in the supplement, and it's based on questions I asked Chat GPT. So I asked it to write a new Seder song, which it did for me, a blessing for everybody at the Seder table, a Maish on a hip hop. I asked it to re-envision the 4 children. In fact, I posed a question subsequently to Chat GPT-4. If there was one thing about the Haggadah, what would it change? And it wrote back the I would change the story of the four children and modernize it and explain to me why, and then gave me another version of the four children. I had it write Passover haikus in different formats. One of them was Lenny Bruce. I had to write a modern Dayenu, modern 10 plagues, a story about Miriam and what she's thinking as she crosses the Red Sea. I had to do debates on different topics, citing rabbis, and that it did for me. This is the blessing that the AI wrote. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's in the supplement, so you can read it as well. I thought it was very touching, and again, we'll be using it at our Seder. The image here, the prompt for the image here was I asked DALL-E to draw a picture in a certain format of robots having a Seder together, and that's what it did. There are many images that I've been generating and playing with. Here's just a few, and DALL-E, which is the image producer, AI, you prompt it with you could say, hey, draw a picture of a robot looking at a matzah on the wall that's in, like in a museum. And so you can see in the bottom left of the screen, you say photo real, and that became photo real. You can do it in sketch format. I asked it to sketch Moses and Pharaoh, which it did on the bottom right. I said, draw a photo real image of an automaton holding matzah. You can see that we have robots around the Seder doing around the table doing their own Seder in a kind of a kid drawing sketch. I said, draw a picture of robots at the kotel taking pictures of themselves, and it did. So here is one of the items that's in the supplement. This is Haikus. This is dedicated in honor of Noah Taft, who is not a big fan of AI right now, but is a big fan of haikus, and I believe at all of his Seders he writes haikus. This is in the style of Lenny Bruce. Hey, Tal, would you mind reading some of these haikus? Is that okay? I ask you to do that?
Sure. The first haiku in honoring Noah Taft. Passover Seder, bitter herbs and matzah balls, my bubby's cooking. Let's see, we'll jump down to Afikoman Hunt. Kids searching high and low, but wait, it's just matzah, man.
I like that. I like the Haggadah's red. Well, I'll read that one. Haggadah's red. We all sit and pretend to understand Hebrew. So the image there, I didn't generate using AI because I put it into my slide, but I literally prompted. That's my job now. That's all of your jobs. You're a prompter. I prompted Chat GPT to write haikus. All I said was write 5 haikus in the style of Lenny Bruce, and it wrote these haikus for me. I hope this is impressing you. I hope it's scaring you. I hope it's intriguing you that this is what you can do. A modern Dayenu. So for the supplement, I wanted to have modernized parts of the Seder, and I asked Chat GPT, will you modernize modern Dayenu? You can see on the screen that and in the material, I gave you the prompts. These were not complicated prompts. They were just simple. Write a modern Dayenu for the Haggadah. So it wrote, if we had access to clean water, Dayenu. If we had access to healthy food, Dayenu. If we had access to quality education, Dayenu. And so on and so forth. And then it actually added a paragraph at the end. But even as we strive for these ideals, we know that the work is never done. May we always be inspired by the story of our ancestors who fought for freedom and justice. And may we continue to work towards a world where every person is truly free. This image is generated by Chat GPT. I wanted an image in a certain artistic style of the Exodus, and that's what it came up with for me. Here are some other images. The images I was playing with you could do any image, anything you think you can have generated as an image. But I was playing around with robots in the story of Egypt. So here's some examples. There's a robot to the left is a robot sketching other robots standing by in Egypt by the pyramids. There's a cute robot here in front of a pyramid. And then there's a more intricate sketch of a robot building a puzzle that in the end is a pyramid. I modernized the 10 plagues, and in a very simple prompt, write a modern list of 10 plagues, the Passover Haggadah. And again, this is what Tal is going to explain to us. I don't quite know how Chat GPT did it, but it took each plague and then tied it into a modern issue we all face. For example, first plague, is climate change. Just as the Nile turned to blood, we are seeing the devastating effects of climate change on our planet with rising temperatures, severe weather patterns, and dwindling natural resources. Number 2, global pandemics. As with the plague of frogs, we have seen the rapid spread of deadly diseases like COVID-19, which have caused immense suffering and loss of life around the world. Look at number 5, racism and prejudice. As with the plague of boils, we see the harmful effects of discrimination and prejudice, which cause pain, suffering, and division in our communities and society. So it tied in global climate change, global pandemics, income inequality, political corruption, racism and prejudice, gun violence. Like the hail that rained down in Egypt, gun violence continues to plague our society, causing senseless deaths and deep trauma for our victims. Police brutality, homelessness, addiction, war and conflict. This is all written by artificial intelligence. This page, I'm not going to play, but it's the YouTube video that I shared with you. And on the left is another image generated by DALL-E of a robot building kind of a block pyramid with the real pyramid behind him. But the YouTube, what I wanted to show you guys is that everything in the YouTube video is created by artificial intelligence. So the background, that was created by DALL-E. This image is an avatar. So it's a human being, but there's a website where you can choose any human being. They have like 12 or 13 models. You can choose the model and then you upload what you want them to say. So I uploaded the Chat GPT modern 10 plagues, and this person then delivers them to me. And you guys saw that in the materials I shared, and I will share it again if you didn't see it. But that's a website called Synthesia. Oop. What AI cannot do. So I did get a comment from my good friend, Professor Sharon Keller, and she said, I wish AI could do the following. So AI cannot clean your house for Passover. It can't cook for you, and it can't do bedikat chametz. So sorry. However, maybe Tal, when we connect the AI to actual robots, they'll be able to do that. I think we're further off from that than we are from the intellectual stuff that we're talking about. So cleaning, we're in 2-week window. Passover's in 2 weeks. You probably should get off this program very soon, not during the program, but afterwards, and go clean your house. Cooking, many of you may have started. I have not. Bedikat chametz. AI can drive me to the store to shop, but I don't want it carrying a fire in my house at this time. So that's what I got. And there's a robot, and he says free. I don't know if he's saying free me, or he is free, or it is free, or they are free, because I've used this technology and I have no idea, to be honest with you, how it did that. It's not thinking, but it's processing. So my first question is, are you wowed yet? Are you wowed at what Chat GPT and DALL-E and Synthesia can do? Are you confused as to how it can do it? Are you reading all the stuff in the news? I don't know, Tal. Is this the biggest thing to ever happen to us? I mean, I know we have the World Wide Web, we have fire, we have cars, we have wheels, but is this now the biggest thing ever? So before you answer that, I'll just turn the screen over to you, Tal, and you're going to kind of deconstruct everything and explain what AI is, what Chat GPT is, and give us an example, like a live demo of doing this, and then we can answer all your questions. So thank you.
Wow. Hey, Ari, thank you very much. I hope everybody appreciated that as much as I did. I think you all know that Ari, what did you say? This is 572, Ari, of your online program?
Yeah, it's our 572nd online program, but we've done more than 1,000 programs, I would say, in 22 years.
Right, which is pretty amazing. And I know lots of people, sing your praises, Ari, but I just want to thank you for all of that. I've had the privilege of knowing you for a long time, so pretty much, I think, throughout all of these 22, 23 years as our children met. We met when our children, our first sets of children, or your first set of children, were very young. And it's been a privilege. And this is really a pretty important moment in sort of all of our lives. And it's with great appreciation that I thank you for bringing this to us. And your passion for the Jewish spin on all of this is really amazing, because obviously in my professional life, we are really never talking about the faith-based ramifications of this sort of stuff. And that is a very interesting angle. So thank you for all of that. Can you see my screen now? is it sharing correctly? Ari?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So I just want to make sure the timer is started here. So we're doing a good job. All right, great. So this is the first screen, and it's important. What we're talking about today is this whole idea of artificial intelligence, and Ari sort of has been using AI, artificial intelligence, and Chat GPT interchangeably. And for the sake of the audience, for the sake of all of us, that's okay. AI is really a very, very big topic, this whole idea of artificial intelligence. And you'll also hear people talk about a concept called AGI, artificial general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence is really this concept that says we potentially may, or we're working toward perhaps a world in which we can teach machines to learn any task, is what is now defined as artificial general intelligence. So, very much like what human beings can do, in barring any other disabilities, pretty much anybody can be trained to do anything. And that's what artificial general intelligence would be if we're ever able to achieve that. This field of artificial intelligence, or this desire to achieve this very, very big goal of artificial general intelligence, is not new. This has been going on for a very long time in the world of computer science. I'm sure if we dig deep enough, we'll be able to find the ancient Western philosophers and Eastern philosophers who talked about this sort of thing going back thousands of years. But what's happened recently, as technology has advanced, as we all know, the capability to achieve this stuff is really starting to be very real. Just as a frame of reference, back, I think it was in the 1970s, folks at MIT were actually able to create a chat system that worked very much like a psychotherapist, psychoanalyst, and it was amazing back in the 1970s. So you haven't, we've been living with this our whole lives, most of our lives, and some of us our whole lives. You just might not know it. But what's really incredible about what's happened lately is that now it is really becoming generally available. So think of artificial intelligence in this image here of my circles as the outer level of a Russian nesting doll. A component that makes artificial intelligence, or the pursuit of artificial intelligence, possible is a thing called machine learning. And machine learning, I like this term because it really tells you exactly what it is. And machine learning is a component of artificial intelligence that means, how can we teach these machines how to learn arbitrary things? What is it, how do you explain to a machine, what does a sentence mean? How do you teach machines to translate from one language to the other when all languages have commonalities in that you have, context, and you have subjects, and your objective is to communicate meaning. But as we all know, and I'm sure many of you on this Zoom today speak multiple languages, and you know that you can say the same thing in one language that doesn't translate particularly well into the next language. Yiddish, for those of us who have any familiarity with that, understand there's just some words that are perfect and very descriptive in Yiddish, and they just don't really work well in other languages. Oftentimes those languages, then those terms become incorporated into other languages. So machine learning is all about how do you make it so machines can learn facts, but then the subtlety and the context and the nuance and things like humor, and how to create things that are fictional but have them be believable. This is what machine learning is all about, teaching the machines to be able to learn. Inside, further going down, is this concept called GPT. Now we're getting really to the part of the conversation that is germane to where we are today. GPT, and pay attention, because this will be a trivia question that somebody's going to have on Jeopardy, or you're going to be in a conversation with people, because everyone is talking about, lots of people are talking about Chat GPT now. Ask them, hey, do you know what GPT means? Most people are going to tell you no, because people are just accepting this is what it's called, Chat GPT, and this is what it can do. But it's important to know what GPT means, and because it helps understand that this is just like anything else in the world, a mechanism for accomplishing something. And this mechanism is called GPT, and GPT stands for generative pretrained transformers, or transformer. Now, it sounds very complicated, just that name. And the truth is, everybody, it is. It's extraordinarily complicated how this stuff works. The only thing I can tell you is it's complicated just like, or in many ways, like our brains are complicated. So don't be disappointed if you don't immediately understand what GPT means. Just like don't be disappointed if you don't exactly understand how our brains work. But it is important to know that GPT is a path, a step on this path to this concept called artificial general intelligence. Finally, we get down to the reason that we're here is talking about Chat GPT. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And I am going to just, after that introduction, tell you a little bit about me. My name is Tal Golan. The important parts of my background are I've been an entrepreneur. I started that professionally in 1996, did that until 2013. I launched a couple of companies. I was almost very successful, but didn't work out. You know, I'm one of those people, I'm sure some of you have the same experience, where you launched a business, you almost got there, but building a business from scratch is very hard, which is why the people who actually accomplish it, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Mark Benioffs, the Bill Gateses of the world, deserve all that much more credit. It's one thing to come up with good ideas. It's another thing to actually turn them into viable businesses. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to go to work in the corporate universe. And since 2013, I've been working for a company called Salesforce. Hopefully some of you have heard of it. If you haven't, just go to salesforce.com. You can learn about what we do. We are the world's largest, most popular customer relationship management platform, and all of the things that now go into the world of customer relationship management. For example, if you've ever called a cell phone company, or most airlines, or many of your banks, when someone answers the phone, they're looking at a screen that we developed. And I've been working there since 2013. This is just a list of some of the companies that I have worked with in various roles while being at Salesforce. I have been married for 26 years, very fortunately to a wonderful woman, Andrea. We have 4 children, and I have 3 patents. So we're going to talk about what's the fuss all about. We're going to dig into a little bit about how search engines work. Hopefully I can get to this quickly. Who is OpenAI? What is a generative pre-trained transformation? What is Chat GPT? And then we're going to get to questions and answers. The caveat for all of this, everybody, is this is complicated stuff. I've tried as hard as I can to distill it down for everyone's sake, not just this particular audience, but everyone. One of the things that people count on me for in my professional life is to help translate very complicated technology conversations and topics into terms that normal people can understand, because it doesn't really matter how great and complicated the technology is if people don't understand how to relate to it in some way. And that's what I'm going to endeavor to do today. So please bear with me. I'm very interested in feedback in terms of did we hit the mark when it comes to making this accessible to people. So please provide any feedback when we're finished, and it'll be greatly appreciated. So you're hearing all this stuff about AI and ML and Chat GPT. So why now? Like, what happened? And I can tell you that this whole explosion happened on November 30th, 2022. So you haven't missed the boat, everybody. I can promise you that many of you were probably much farther behind by the time social media, became something that you were doing in your lives on a regular basis. That took a little bit longer it actually took much longer for it to permeate in terms of, hitting 1 million people that were using it, or 10 million people, or 100 million people. On November 30th, 2022, a company called OpenAI made accessible to the public this thing called Chat GPT. And we're going to give you an example of what this is in a few minutes if you haven't seen it. But as a pre-example, Chat GPT is a website that you can go to, and you can type into a little box and ask it questions about all sorts of things. And you'll see this is not just like using Google search, which I imagine most everybody on the phone now is familiar with, or the call today. I mean, if we could do another poll, I would ask, the poll would be, how many people who are on today have used Google? And I gotta believe that it's 100%. So if there's anybody out there that has not used Google before, please let us know. But rest assured, the concepts that you have learned about, or that you've experienced over the last, let's see, it's 25 years now. Google was launched in 1998. Believe it or not, 25 years. That's pretty amazing. Over the course of the last 25 years, people have become very comfortable with that concept of what it means to search. But I promise you, that was not a comfortable, common thing when it started. People have become comfortable with it over the years, and which is why I'm going to start out with a little bit of a primer to understand where we're going by helping you understand what happens when you do a Google search. So when you do a Google search, the first thing that happens, and this all happens, believe it or not, from pretty much the moment you hit enter after you've typed in your search. The next 6 things happen, and they happen in milliseconds, tens of milliseconds, which is absolutely incredible, and it is a tribute to what the folks at Google have been able to accomplish and refine over the course of the last 25 years. This concept of keyword matching. Hopefully everybody can appreciate what keyword matching is. You ask it a question, you type, or you say, Passover, Haggadah, 2013, artwork. And what's going to happen is you're expecting, as a search result, it's going to look at those words that you've typed in, go out and scour the internet for information where those keywords were present in either the title, the URL, the content of the information, etc. First step. Again, remember, this all happens pretty much by the time you finished hitting enter. This information all this has happened inside the magic that is Google. The next thing is a concept called page ranking. And this is really what was the beginning, the most important thing initially that Google brought to the party, as opposed to other search engines that existed before Google launched. This was their original killer application, and all the rest of the stuff has come since and has just made them more dominant. The idea of the page rank is to help determine the importance of the page based on, and this is not exclusively what it is, and all of the algorithms and things that are working in the back, we don't know exactly how they work because they're proprietary to the folks at Google. But this is what's happening in the background. They're using the links that come back to this content to help determine the credibility of the content. So that is to say, if you are an expert on a field and you have put content on the internet, and a lot of people have linked back to that, saying that this is the content that we think is legit, Google factors that in. Next thing is content quality and relevance. Another algorithm is used to determine Is this relevant? Based on the words that you've typed in, is the content that's going to come back going to be absolutely relevant? Because, we all know, certainly in English, words can have different meanings in different contexts. So the algorithms are designed to help make sure that we're on target. There's this concept of user experience, location, and personalization. And just so hopefully everybody knows this, your search history and where you physically are, physically in the universe today, whether you're in New Jersey, you're in Boston, you're in Europe, you're in Scandinavia, you're in Southeast Asia, you're in Israel, you're in Southern California, your physical location can have an impact on the search results that you'll receive, as well as the history of things that you've searched for in the past. So, ask yourself the question, do I like that? Is that good? Am I comfortable with that now that I know that that's what's going on? I don't know. Some people are, some people aren't. But it's important when we get to some of the fears that people have around Chat GPT and this emergence of really generally accessible AI assistants. Finally, there's search intent, which is very similar to relevance. And then finally, one of the latest things that Google has is this thing called RankBrain. And this is a machine learning algorithm that's designed to help make sure that the best answers are ideally coming closest to the top when it comes to the responses that Google's giving you. Now, this was about 5 minutes on how does Google work, and I don't imagine you were all here thinking, well, I want to understand how Google works. But now that you understand how Google works, and you understand, or at least a high-level overview of how a Google search works, hopefully it will help you be a little bit more comfortable with and more interested in pursuing this new technology, Chat GPT. So Chat GPT comes from a company called OpenAI. That is the name of the company. And OpenAI, and so everybody knows, just like Google is a privately held company, or it's a publicly traded company, but it is a company, it's not a government. OpenAI is the same thing. Privately held company, currently not public, founded in 2015, based in San Francisco. You can read their mission. You can also go look at openai.com/charter to learn more about what they're trying to accomplish. I share this because I want everybody to know the people who are doing this today really are doing it with the best intentions. Now, there's always with every technology, there's always a chance that people are going to use it for bad things. This will be undoubtedly, like Google has been used for bad things, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of these things, undoubtedly that will happen also with this. You should expect it. And the most important thing I want everybody to do from now is be aware. Be a little bit more skeptical of information that you see today than you were yesterday, not from the sake of being cynical, but from the sake of asking yourself, when you see something that seems like it's really hard to believe, go and look for another source. Do a little bit more checking to see if it's real. Because the truth of the matter is, in the world that we live in today, and it has never been easier for misinformation and disinformation to be propagated. So and Ari and I have talked a little bit about this, the message, the philosophical message that we would like people to take away from introductions like this is, don't be cynical, but be a little bit more skeptical. Ask yourself, it's not, don't simply say, well, because I'm receiving information and it came from this source that I think I trust, that this information is absolutely 100% true. Go check out another source to see, just to be sure before you start sharing it around. You don't want to be that person who shares around images of somebody who is in a compromising position only to find out that that stuff was made up. And if people are just a little bit more skeptical, it's going to make this stuff a lot safer for everybody. But the point is, the folks at OpenAI are doing their absolute best to make this a safe thing. Hopefully they'll be successful along with everybody else. So what is a generative pre-trained transformation? So I'm gonna throw these 6 things up all at the same time. Part of this is to parallel what happens when you're using Google. So we've all been comfortable with Google. We believe we understand how that works. We accept that same thing. Google, their motto when they launched their company was do no evil. We hope and believe that Google is doing everything they can to do no evil. I type words into a search bar, I hit enter, and magically responses come back. Interestingly, I've been able to boil down what you can do with a generative pre-trained transformation. Also, there are 6 things that I was able to pull out. What's important to know about these generative pre-trained transformations is that they are all about breaking down information that they are given in an input. For example, the Haggadah, the Talmud, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the United States Constitution, the rules of law, common law that have been established in the United Kingdom over the course of the last 300 or 400 years. Any piece of information in English, in French, in Spanish, in Hebrew, in Japanese, the object is to take that information in, understand the relationship between the words, understand the context of those words, and understand the intent that is trying to be communicated by that set of words. So how is this accomplished? Inside of these pre-trained transformations, that information is broken down using a thing called a self-attention mechanism. So you can imagine if you type in one sentence, and for those of you who are native English speakers or well-trained in the English language, we understand what grammar is like in English. Every language has its own structure of grammar. Some are, similar to English. Some are very, very different. But you understand, you break down a sentence. In English, you've got subjects, you've got predicates, you've got nouns, you've got verbs, you've got beginnings, you've got endings. Understanding the context of an individual sentence as the words are laid out. What these training algorithms do now is they also take it a next step further. In order to make it faster for the machines to do this stuff, they will take your sentence or your paragraph and break it down into lots of little pieces. Then go off and do similar exercises to understand the intent and the context of these individual pieces, also then relating them back to the original entire piece of content. You do this through multi-head attention. The next thing you do is positional encoding, where again, referring back to English, you can break a sentence down. This kind of positional encoding is important when you're trying to understand the meaning of a sentence. There's a thing called layer normalization, which is designed to remove redundant overlaps throughout this process. And remember, everybody, this is complicated stuff, okay? Please don't feel bad if you don't understand what I'm talking about. I'm trying to connect it back to the way we understand English, because that's my native language. But hopefully you're getting the point.
Hey, Tal,
here,
just given time,
yeah.
And I want to get to the actual GPT because I want people to see what it looks like.
This is the last slide.
But can I say that what you're showing us is that the Google technology, which went out and searched for items, if we wanted to have recipes for the Passover Seder, we search for it and it gives the recipes. This new technology, you can say, actually is now taking that information and writing essays for us. It can write new recipes for us. It's taking this information, but it's now creating something new out of it for us, right?
It can be. It absolutely 100% can be.
That's the scary part. In other words, just asking it for a list is not the same as asking it to write you a story.
Yeah. Well, and I would say it's excellent. Remember, we use this word scary and all these things. What I want everybody to know is this really isn't, by definition, any of this stuff is not designed to be scary. Okay. So I'm going to just, jump forward and we're going to get to, right now, we're going to get to who's using these transformations today. And then the next slide is going to be getting to the demo. So you might be asking yourself, well, I've heard of Chat GPT. Who else is using it? Well, Microsoft, if you're a Microsoft fan and you use Bing, a big component of Bing now is called Bing GPT, which is using this technology, which we're going to demonstrate. My company, Salesforce, has been in this business for a very long time, has been working in artificial intelligence for a very long time, also is bringing a product to market called Einstein GPT. Einstein is a trade name that Salesforce uses. And of course, Google has a thing called Bard. And we're going to maybe show that really quick also today. So this is where, thank you, Ari, for moving me along. This is where we get to the part of the conversation, or the part of the talk today, where we're going to do a little demonstration. So do we see my personal Chat GPT screen up here now, Ari?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
So this is a website. You're all going to get a link to Chat GPT. After this program, you can register and then play.
Correct. So everybody, there is nothing, absolutely nothing special. I have not done anything special to be doing this. I happen to pay for the subscription to Chat GPT, which allows me, it's called Chat GPT Plus. It allows me to have access to their absolute latest thing that they call Chat GPT 4. Really, the difference between Chat GPT 3 and Chat GPT 3.5 and Chat GPT 4, like everything that we've become comfortable with over all of our time using technology, it's making things ideally better, faster, and less expensive. But ultimately, the difference between ChatGPT 3 and 4, they both do the same thing. ChatGPT 4, is supposed to just do it better, a little better, maybe a little faster. Certainly, they say that they figured out a way to do it less expensive, more energy efficient. But if you don't have access to ChatGPT 4, don't sweat it. You're not missing anything right now. So with that in mind, I'm going to use ChatGPT 3.5 because this is what everybody can have access to today.
Let me add,
no
Tal.
Cost.
For
Yes.
your free thing, it's a limited access, so anybody can go play with it, but you'll reach a point where it'll slow down because it's got priorities for so many people that people who pay get higher priority. It's faster, and you have limited number of queries you can give it every day. So you can play with it without a problem, but you may reach a limit without paying, I think it's $20 a month.
So having said that, so like you said, Ari's going to give you the link. Go ahead and register. You got nothing to lose. There's no risk whatsoever. So you can use this system to do things like you've always done. So like if you go to Google today and you ask what is the population of the United as of 2020, you might ask that question to Google all the time. And what Google's going to do is it's going to show you at the top these days, it'll give you an answer, and then it'll show you all kinds of links back to where you can get that information. Now, ChatGPT and these types of models, and one of the benefits of them, and one of the things that you should be concerned about is it just gives you back an answer. That's it. Now, begs the question, well, do I believe this answer? Do I trust this answer? Right now, when you're going after factual things, these systems are very, very accurate. Okay, the population is a thing. It is a known thing, so you can be very comfortable. But you should always, again, use the same. Be a little skeptical sometimes, but for the most part, you'll be able to do that. But here's an example of something that's particularly interesting that you can do with ChatGPT or any of these things. You can type in, I have flour, eggs, and milk. What can I make with these ingredients? Now, hopefully you're all seeing this happen in real time. No, there's, my hands are up. I'm not typing. Pretty amazing, if you ask me. The system understands the context of my question. I've told it, I have these 3 ingredients. I ask it, what dishes can I make? So it understands from dishes, the word dishes, that I'm talking about food. I didn't even type dishes in there. I just said, what can I make? It understood that I was talking about food it responds back that these are the dishes that you can make, and here are some examples, and you can read what they are, and that's pretty amazing. You can do things extraordinarily comprehensive when it comes to these prompts. So as Ari said, your job, all of our jobs now, we're people who are in the business of coming up with prompts. That's what this little box is down here. Hopefully you can see my mouse moving, excuse me. And this is where you're typing in the prompts. Some advice when it comes to these prompts, everybody. The system, this is not, you're not talking to an all-knowing body. This is not some deity, okay? You're not going to be very satisfied if you ask it, you know, when is the world going to come to an end, okay? What is the meaning of life? You know, you may feel like you want to start there, but I promise you, these systems are much better at other stuff. And the other stuff that it's good for is ask it very, very detailed questions, or pose very, very detailed questions, or ask it for very, very, you know, put a lot of detail into the request that you're about to make. That's what makes these prompts powerful. So if you remember back to that, as much as I tried to make it simple, complicated explanation of how does a GPT work, it breaks down everything that you're asking it, and then it is effectively mapping it to this huge amount of information that it has, quote unquote, learned, that has been mapped in a similar fashion. So it figures out what the intent, what you're trying to ask. It looks at the whole corpus of information that it has access to, which, as far as Chat GPT is concerned, ends in 2021. This is a limitation that Chat GPT, the folks at OpenAI, have put on their Chat GPT system that we all have access to. For the most part, the corpus of information is not trained on anything after 2021. So if you ask Chat GPT who won the basketball games in the 2023 NCAA championship, it has no idea. Interestingly, there are other systems now. Google, for example, just released, made generally available, or by invitation, but sort of generally available, the system they call Bard, that is supposed to actually have access to the real-time stream of information that's coming in. So, you know, your mileage may vary, but keep in mind that OpenAI's chat system and any of these chat systems that are based on GPT demand a little bit of extra verbosity when it comes to the prompt that you're providing. Don't be afraid. You're not going to break anything. And the last thing I'm going to say is these systems, when you're in a conversation, if that's the proper term to use here, with this Chat GPT mechanism, you can go ahead and follow up and say, what is a good recipe for for French toast? And you can see the system goes right out and gives you a great example of not only what would your recipe want to be, it's going to give you instructions on how to cook it.
So I want to take this to another level because we're running out of time, which is, I think, for me, the most amazing part of Chat GPT, because this is just information. I would say, like, it's great. It's quick information. You got a recipe, you gave it ingredients, it answered. But what amazes me about Chat GPT and what I started off with is that it's creative. In other words, you can ask it, and this is what's going on at universities and high schools, is that now students are basically taking their homework assignments, like essays, and having Chat GPT write it for them. So I want you to show an example where Chat GPT writes an essay. So can I give you a prompt?
Sure.
Okay. We want a 500-word essay comparing and contrasting the philosophy of Spinoza and Maimonides in connection with how to read the Bible. So 500 word comparing, contrasting Spinoza and Maimonides philosophy on how to read the Bible.
How do I spell Maimonides?
It doesn't actually, you can MAIMONIDES.
Okay.
So just say, and then philosophy.
Okay.
Of reading the Bible. This is a program we did yesterday. So I did this last night to see what it would write and compared it to what our speaker taught us. And then you hit that. Now watch, here's your essay. And it's writing, you can read it. I mean, look how fast it's writing your essay for you. And you can say, write it in 1,000 words. You can say, write it in 2,500 words. You can say, quote, famous Jewish sources on each side. You can say, quote, and it will do that. This is the level. This, you can, but you can also say, hey, Chat GPT, write a legal letter, legal demand letter, and you give it the facts, and it will write a legal letter for you. I can say, hey, Chat GPT, would you please write a use exclusive restriction for my health club that protects me in the context of a retail lease in a shopping center? It will write the whole provision for me. Anyway, this is a 500.
What I'd like to say on that though, just and what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the screen that I have up here. This is Google Bard. This is Google's version of a GPT. Okay. And you can go sign yourself up for this also. You go to bard.google.com, B-A-R-D, like Shakespeare, bard.google.com, put yourself on the wait list, and then they'll eventually let you in. This isn't as generally available as Open AI system. And the reason why I am on the screen is I just want everybody to know, Ari just said you can type it in, it'll make a legal letter. The reason why Ari can do that is because Ari has 30 years of experience as an attorney in that world. He can ask it to write him a legal letter because Ari knows how to look at that legal letter and make sure that it's accurate and augmented as necessary. Just be very careful. What you see here is the screen. This is the very first time I've ever logged into Bard. I just got my invitation. I signed up yesterday. Okay. Yeah. And why did I save the screen? Because I want everybody to know this and on no uncertain terms. This stuff is experimental. Open AI stuff is experimental. Bard stuff is experimental. If you ask any of these systems to generate anything for you, like a legal letter, anything like that, okay, please do not simply use it without getting an expert human to make sure that it's correct.
Can we go back? Can we go back to the other screen for a second? Because I want people to see what it wrote in the answer to that question, just the opening. And then Tal is correct. I've had it write things, and it factually sometimes, if it doesn't know something, it will make up a fact. You should know that. But for the legal provision that I asked it to write was about 87% close to what I have been able to write after 30 years of practicing law. So I think Tal mentioned this word. The world has changed. We are now all going to be called prompters, which means we have to be sophisticated enough to ask the right question to get the right answer. And then we also have to double check to make sure that the information is correct. But check this out. Baruch Spinoza and Maimonides were two influential philosophers who lived in the 17th and 12th centuries, respectively. Spinoza, it goes on to about Spinoza's theological political treatise. Maimonides, it talks about Guide to the Perplexed. Then it talks about how they interpret the Bible. Everything we talked about yesterday is outlined here. Is it as good as Professor Nadler? No. Is it amazing that it wrote it? Yes. The problem that's going on in schools right now is that students are using it to write their essays. And according to Professor Nadler, their universities now are going to use GPT and AI to correct and to judge and assess the essays. So I just want to make sure people understand that this is, having a recipe is amazing, but the other thing is you can have it write fiction, right? So you can say, write a fictional account of Ezra and Aaron going to Hogwarts and helping to fight against the dark forces of evil with Harry and Hermione and Ron and in 1,000 words, and we'll write a whole story for you. Or what did Moses say to Aaron when in their private time? It'll write a whole fictional story for you.
And what you're seeing happening right now on the screen also, and is important to keep in mind when you're using this stuff, and this is how I use it these days. I'll start a conversation with Chat GPT. I'll ask it a question. I'll want more information, and then as I'm reading the response, like for example, Ari's prompt, 500 words comparing and contrasting Spinoza and Maimonides' philosophy on reading the Bible. So then I read this, and this is great. Well, so the first question that I had was, okay, well, I want to know more about the Guide to Perplexed by Maimonides. So I just asked it, tell me more about the Guide for the Perplexed by Maimonides. And it goes ahead and it gives me this set of information. So this whole idea around having conversations, and as the conversations diverge and they go into different directions, that is, this system is keeping track of the context of your conversation in this case. It knows that previously in this session, I was asking about Spinoza and Maimonides. They referred to the Guide to the Perplexed. I'm asking it about the Guide to the Perplexed. So now I can go back and say, what does Spinoza say about the Guide to the Perplexed? And it's going to go off and do the best it can to tell you, what it said. Anyhow, I know, Ari, that we were hoping to have time for questions and answers. I have a little bit more time if we want to continue.
Yeah, let's have a quick Q&A, because there's some things I wanted to get to. I've asked you this question: how fast is AI learning? So if we come back tomorrow and we ask the same question, or a creative question, like when I said, write a modern 10 plagues, it wrote for me. If I come back 2 days later, will it write the exact same thing for me, or will it be different?
It will absolutely be different. And part of what goes into all of this, there is a certain, in order to make these systems work, there is a certain amount of randomness, and there is a certain amount of, entropy. So the very short answer is, it will be different, based in large part to the context of how you got to that initial question, what other conversation you were having before that, and it may be different. There may be other factors that influence how it's different. So the short answer is, it will be different. The degree to which it's different can depend on a lot of other factors. So this is not this system. If we want to think about it as a database, or the corpus of information that these systems are pulling from, it's not looking at a long list of snippets of words and then just putting them together. It really is synthesizing a response to your question at that moment in time.
Are they adding new data every day to these different systems?
Some are, some aren't. Okay, so for example, the OpenAI, they've told us very specifically the data set is stopped being added to in 2021. That's part of their experiment. I believe Google is doing things that are more real time, as is Microsoft. But an important thing to know, the GPT works on this concept called large language models. Okay, and a large language model is probably a pretty good term. It's a model that uses a huge amount of language, billions and billions and billions of inputs, in order to create these large language models and make these models into things that can have information extracted from them. What this means is, there are many organizations and individuals who are creating their own language models for special purposes. I would be very surprised if it doesn't exist already. And if it doesn't exist already, it will come very, very soon. There's going to be language models that are going to be based entirely on and tuned for the analysis of Jewish content. Okay. Somebody may be adding new, if those models have been created, someone may be monitoring them and updating them and adding new things over time to those specific language models. So the short answer is, is the information being added? It depends on the language model that's being used. For Chat GPT, they tell us no. For Google, they tell us yes, but there can be other limitations that are on that as well.
How do you respond? There are, I'm telling you, everybody, this is radical. The getting the recipe for your refrigerator is not radical. When you could type in, when you play and have it write essays and analysis and ask questions and it talks back and it responds, it is radical. It is. I don't even know how to explain how important this is in the world, Tal, but this is it. Now, before we get to why it's a game changer as a whole, one of the critiques of AI is that people say it's just stealing. It's taking other people's ideas and synthesizing it into the updated 10 plagues. It's taking other people's art or other people's images and synthesizing other images. So is it stealing or is it synthesizing from your perspective?
Okay, so remember, this is just one person's opinion. I do not believe that this is stealing in the traditional sense. And I'm not talking about the way the image creation stuff works, because to be honest with you, that I'm not anywhere near as knowledgeable on how do these systems go about constructing an image that is in the style of Picasso. So I don't know what they're doing. I do not believe they're stealing either, but I do not have anywhere near as much understanding of those systems. When it comes to the GPT-based systems on the large language models, I can tell you that they're not simply storing somebody else's quotes and then pulling them and providing them to you. What is really happening is the responses are being synthesized in real time. Now, does that mean that the Chat GPT system that is doing the regurgitation, is it possible that it can come up with a statement that somebody else has previously said? And like that, saying, if you have 1,000 monkeys typing for 1,000 years, eventually they're going to type out the complete works of Shakespeare. If you haven't heard that, what this is a little bit like is all of a sudden we're able to have 1,000 monkeys typing for 1,000 years, but it all happens when I click enter. It all just happens much faster. That 1,000 years has been compressed into milliseconds in some cases, or certainly seconds in other cases. So it's to understand what is stealing in this case. What this is really doing is synthesizing, and it brings up a whole host of interesting ethical and philosophical questions, which is one of the things that's why I'm so interested in this particular topic. I went to Brandeis University and I studied philosophy and religion, and nobody understood what I was going to do with an education in philosophy and religion. Quite frankly, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And all these years later, and all this time in technology and all the hardcore technology things that I've done and helped companies be successful and have failures and all of this kind of stuff, what's super interesting is the philosophical question that you just raised, Ari. It comes down to what is stealing? And in my opinion, and I think people can, you form your own opinions, this is not simply plagiarism, but it is also asking the question, well, what is it then? And it's when something is created entirely synthetically, what does that mean? When if you are creating it, like if I was to ask, who was the professor that spoke yesterday?
Nadler, Nadler.
Okay, Professor Nadler spoke yesterday, and I was to ask him to give me 500 words comparing and contrasting Spinoza and Maimonides' philosophy on reading the Bible. Presumably, what he would be doing is synthesizing a response. So the question is, what's different between his synthesis of that response and this, right, at the lowest level, mathematical synthesis of a response? And we can probably speak for the rest of our lives on that particular topic.
Right. I mean, I know we're in overtime. I do want people to see Dolly because I want them to see the art
Okay,
side of this, which is the same idea, but you'll see how it synthesizes art. We'll put in a note.
great.
The
I'm going to do that
reason
right
that
now.
this is massive is because of the synthesis that we just talked about. I mean, people are worried it's going to make humans more dependent on technology. Maybe humans are going to be stupider now. Maybe, and we're going to rely on technology, as Tal said, that may not give us the correct answers. But this is going to lead, and I would say within the next year, to major job displacement. There are certain jobs that now can be done by AI.
Yeah,
So
and
there are
on that
major
topic,
concerns that you should know that is going to happen in the next year or two or less, right?
right?
My CSP
Yeah.
secretary now is Chat GPT.
Okay, excellent. Okay, and the thing that, and for everybody out there, if you'll notice that I'm really trying hard not to feed into the FUD, the fear, the uncertainty, and doubt that is coming into this conversation. And Ari has some awesome references that he's going to be able to provide you with one of his amazing post-conversation follow-ups, where he's going to share not only the article from was it Thomas Friedman's
Yep.
article that you shared earlier. He's also going to share an article from Bill Gates. So don't take Tal Golan's word for it. Don't take Ari Katz's word for it. Like we said, be a little skeptical. Learn this stuff for yourself. See what Bill Gates has to say from yesterday. This is a thing that he posted yesterday. The technology that we're being exposed to right now is game changing, right? I don't know. I mean, this is an older crowd, Baruch Hashem. Many of you remember a time when, I, for heaven's sakes, remember a time when there weren't cell phones. I remember when I had my first email address. I remember when I was living in Israel in 1994, trying to explain to somebody what the internet was, and that one day they were going to do $1 billion worth of transactions on the internet one day. And that in China, on the day during the year Singles Day, I think they did like $38 billion in one day. So what I'm trying to say about this is game changing, absolutely. People may shift roles, shift jobs, but on the balance, like with almost every major technological advancement, people were afraid that when the steam engine was invented, it was going to take away people's jobs because these machines could now do all the work that people were doing. Well, we see how that worked out. It worked out okay for us. Another reference is when the printing press was created in the 15th century. You can actually find references where people said, what a shame, it's going to destroy the lines of work for the scribes. Okay, so what Ari is saying is true. There are going to be shifts, but no more than the robots have not taken all of our jobs. But there is more. I mean, if you want to go to look at a car manufacturing line or the manufacturing line that does pretty much anything these days, there's tons of robots, but people are still finding jobs. So what's happening is things are shifting. And this is a technology that is going to shift. And hopefully, if we agree with Bill Gates, okay, and he can give you a really good explanation of why he believes, and I agree with Bill Gates. I'm sure he's thrilled to know that. I believe, and I agree with Bill Gates, that on balance, if we do the right things here, technologies like this are going to be able to do more good than bad. And these technologies can be pointed at things like making life better for the poorest in our world, the least fortunate. And ultimately, this is going to be up to people, all of us, who are a little bit ahead of the curve now. So congratulations, everybody, for being on the call today. You're a little bit ahead of the curve. You can choose to be afraid, which some will. You can also choose to be optimistic, as I hope many of you will, that this is a game-changing technology. The fact that this is now publicly available is groundbreaking in every way for all of us. And what we should all try to do is focus on making the best of it, in which case it will manifest that way.
Right.
Don't just fall into that. So last thing, Ari, what picture do we want to make?
Okay, before we get to the art, it's not game changing. Everything that you mentioned, the internet, the home computer, the cell phone, social media, it's all led up to this moment in history. This is I agree with the headline from the New York Times. It's a Promethean moment. It's not a game changer. It's Promethean. When you play with it, when you interact with GPT, you'll see why. I want to note that I did ask Chat GPT a question. I said, do you pose a threat to humanity? And Chat GPT responded, as an AI language model, I am a tool designed to assist with tasks such as answering questions, providing information, and generating text. I do not have consciousness, emotions, or desires, so I do not inherently pose a threat to humanity. However, like any technology, AI can be misused or have unintended consequences. The potential risks associated with AI generally arise from the ways in which it's used, the decisions it informs, and the potential biases in the data it has been trained on. It's important for those who develop, deploy, and use AI systems like me to be aware of these risks and take steps to mitigate them. First, I want you to see that I asked it a question and it answered me as a me, like the AI, and it's exactly what Tal said. It's how we use technology. So Tal, let's use the art one to show them an example. You ready?
Yep. Okay.
Let's do an image of monkeys with a typewriter by the pyramids. See what comes up. Now, I find that the art thing is really hit or miss. So, and then hold on. Let's create an image of monkeys, with typewriters by the pyramids. And then you have to, if you want, you can say a style, and we'll say digital art. And then you hit generate. And so now, and then while it's generating, this particular portal gives you ideas. Like you can say, do it abstract pencil watercolor of a lonely, anyway, there you go. Now you have, and you can kind of check, do you like them? Do you not like them? You can download them. So there are monkeys on a typewriter by the pyramids. You can go to the next one, Tal, just to show them. There you go. Now, watch this. Go back to the same prompt, but instead of saying digital art, say photo real. And I want you to see how fast it's generating the art. Photo real. There you go. That's all. I mean, you can go in as much detail as you want. There's an example. They give you examples of what people have generated. Takes about what, 30 seconds, Tal? There you go.
It depends.
So now just click on the one I like. Yeah, there you go. There's a photoreal picture of monkeys on a typewriter in Egypt. Now let's do one more. Let's go back and say, instead of photoreal, say Matisse. M-A-T, it doesn't know how it can understand you. M-A-T-T-I-S-E or something like that, of Matisse. So you can really, I mean, I find particularly the art a little more, that was pretty impressive, but I've been trying to, there you go. And so that's its impression of what Matisse, you could do Van Gogh, you can do Cubist, you can, anything you want. That's how fast it's generating the art. So artists are not happy with this technology for a variety of reasons, again, as we mentioned. I wanted to end the discussion. Which one's that? That's Picasso. It's okay. Some is better than others.
This is a good one.
Yeah, so, that's true.
Let's see.
I kind of want to end this way because we're way off time. Number one is, even though I believe I did the first Haggadah supplement, I was beat to the punch by some people who did the first ever AI Haggadah. This whole Haggadah here is AI. Now it doesn't give you updated creative like modern 10 plagues. They had the people who did it had to do art using a different website. The cover is everything in here generated by AI, and it had to do midrashim, rabbinical interpretations of the traditional Haggadah, and you can get that on Amazon, I believe. So I wanted to end as follows. When I was at Princeton, I had a friend who told me that he and his family do Seders every year. And they didn't really know how to lead the Seder, and they didn't know the song. So what they had was a cassette tape and a cassette player, and they would put it at their Seder table. Would you maybe unshare the screen, Tal, and I'll tell the story. And
Okay.
they would, when they started the Seder, they would press play, and this voice would come on and would lead their Seder and would sing songs. Then they would eat. And the other part that I thought was very funny was at the end, they would just fast forward through the songs to get through the end of the Seder. I thought it was a great story. Well, as of today, I can create an avatar of a human who can now lead you through the whole Seder. I can do it now. I can choose any human. I can use a variety of humans, like I showed you in those video clips and that I sent you all. And you could take your computer to your table, and that person can lead you through the whole Seder. Now, I told my wife, the good news, they can't sing yet, but they can replace your rabbi. They can replace your Seder leader. That's what they can do right now online. As we go into Pesach, this is not the same pace. You have now it's a new world, whether you create your own Haggadah supplement using AI, which I recommend you do, or use the one that I generated, or buy the Haggadah online, or think of a question that you want, Pesach is a holiday of asking questions. So you can use Chat GPT to ask any question you want and see what answers come up. And you can use the art to create any art you want, and you can bring it to your Seder, and you can share it with your guests. And you can share that you learned about AI on the CSP Zoom chat with Tal Golan. And then you can watch this over again, understand the technology.
Just an introduction. And this is just where we are today. Right. This is going to advance very quickly. I know there are people out there who are, very concerned. To answer one question, can this be used for bad? The answer is absolutely 100% yes. And that's why Ari and I feel it's especially important that everybody is aware of this, that this is available. And as long as we're on the lookout and we're diligent, I think we can drive this technology to have it be overwhelmingly positive. So just remember, everybody, you're a little bit in control of where this is going to go and how this is all going to play out. So if you are someone who's from the Northeast and you were around in the 70s and 80s, Cy Sims used to say, an educated consumer is our best customer. And please be educated. Don't say you didn't know, and please don't just be afraid. Engage with this stuff, try it, and I think you'll find on balance, it's extraordinarily interesting. I know I've had some wonderful long conversations with Chat GPT, and it's helped me learn a lot about topics that I had otherwise no knowledge of. So have fun, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you for making this happen, Ari.
Have fun, be safe, and yes, Cantor Neil Schwartz, your job is safe. I have not seen a singing portal, but I assume it's coming very soon. So we'll see what it can do when we need it to as a sample to do something for Yom Kippur services. I don't know. I'm sure it will be able to do it. Okay, I hope this has been informative. I hope it will. It takes you into Passover with a new vision of the world that we're going into. We're not going into it. We're there. I'll send you some articles. Please read them. I'll send you some good critiques about and the challenges. Please read them. But most importantly, be educated. Go play on Chat GPT. Have a great Pesach, everybody. And sorry, it will not clean your house. So not yet. I told you that. So time to clean and cook. Take care. Thanks, Tal. Bye, everybody.